Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to my vlog. I never thought I would, where we talk about doing things we never thought we would do, and the incredible places that they can lead us when we jump out of our comfort zone. Today, I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Trish Walker. She's an author, a speaker, and an energy mastery healer. Hi, Trish.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much for coming. So, you have a fascinating story, and I'm going to let you tell it yourself. But in order to get to your story, why don't we start with you telling us about one of the things that you never thought you would do? I know you've done several, I know there's a whole list, and we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But why don't we start with one thing you never thought you would do, and let's see where it led you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love talking about this because it just brings up such great memories for me of where I was and where I'm going. So one of the things I never thought I would do is go to race car school, turn it into a list of doing 50 things in my 50th year, and go on to write a book about it.
Race car school. Like, I didn't even know there was such thing as a race car school. How did you hear about race car school? Where did you find race car school? Where is this race car school and how do I go?
So I went to a school at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I grew up around cars. I have three older brothers. Two of them are in the auto industry. One of them used to do towing for Indy car racing. So it's always been something that I wouldn't say I was passionate about, but always had an interest in it. And when we go back and talk about the story of my doing 50 new things in my 50th year, you'll see kind of how I got into race car school. But race car school was down in Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And I still giggle about it because it was a one-day program. You sit in the classroom, you get to pick out which car you want to take out. There's Porsches and Lamborghinis and Ferraris. Well, what I found out later on was that I had picked the model of Porsche. They said that was the go-kart of the Speedway. So, and upon reviewing the film of my laps, it looked like I was looking for a parking spot at the mall. So I didn't really satisfy my need for speed, but I got an A in the class.
Wow. So when you were growing up with your brothers, did you ever go to like motor car racing and things like that? I
I
don't
did.
know. Yeah, I don't know much about that world. So is it what, the Indy 500, or I guess that's the really big one?
What the ones that I did was I grew up back in New Jersey, so it was like the Pocono 500 or it was on that IndyCar circuit, but my brother would pick up the cars that would basically wreck on the track. And so a couple times I'd find myself in the cab of his tow truck with people that I later have learned might be a little famous, like Mario Andretti. And but I was so young at the time, I just didn't know who they were.
Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. So, I have to ask, did you want to go out and get a sports car after you went to racing school?
I do. And right now I drive a Nissan Murano. But when I finished that day, I still didn't feel like I had accomplished what I wanted to do, and that was drive fast. So they decided they were going to send me out with a professional drifter. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's when you drive fast and then think Fast and Furious, those
Okay.
driving. So I later found out that the gentleman they sent me out with was a stunt driver from Fast and Furious.
How cool.
It was super cool. So he took me out on the track and we started to drift, and I saw the terror in his eyes, but I wasn't scared. And when I got back into the building, the drivers go, "You kind of got him mad because you didn't get scared." so, so that was the best part of the day. But we got into a spin, and I asked him later, I'm like, "Was that like, were we supposed to do that? He goes, no, don't worry. It was fine. So it was a very eventful day. And that was my favorite on my list of 50 by far.
Wow. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine doing something like that. Because I front like I'm this huge daredevil, but I don't know. I'd be scared of something like that. Um, okay, so you had a list of 50 things that you wanted to do before you turned 50. What are a few of the other things?
Let me back up a little bit if you don't mind. And I'm going to share what prompted
Yes.
these 50, because it really started out as a blog. As I was approaching the big 50, I started really looking at the people that were around me, talking to them about them approaching that milestone. And it was like they were ready to pick out their pine boxes.
Ugh.
And I just went, this is not happening. I lost both my parents when I was pretty young, so it kind of gave me a different vision of life than other people.
Mhm.
Life is short. We're really seeing that right now. So I have a young man that I know in Santa Barbara whose name is Jesse Brissendine, and he actually did 1,000 new things in 1 year. Didn't have that time or energy for that. He's very interesting. I'll send you his link. But I asked him if I could borrow his idea. And for my 50th year, I said, I want to do 50 new things. And they weren't all race car school or, go shopping in Paris. Been there, done that. But it was a lot of firsts and aha moments, switching my mindset to, I usually have a conversation this way with people. It doesn't work. I'm going to do it this way. But I did have fun sprinkled in there. I had, again, race car school. One thing I've always toyed with was getting a tattoo. And so that was number 40.
Where is it?
It's on my arm. I'm wearing a very tight sleeve here, but I just got a sun. I love the sunrises and the sunsets. So
So do
it's
I.
sun. And I have a son who was 12 or 13 at the time, and I came home and showed him, and he goes, you do know that's permanent, right, Mom?
As if you didn't know what a tattoo was.
Right, right. So now when he turns 18, we're going to go get another one together. But yeah, it was just, so again, I was just blogging about it. It was just something for me. I used to be that kind of person that didn't make it to the finish line. I'd start something and someone would talk me out of it, or I'd talk myself out of it. So when I hit the 50th thing, I just remember sitting there going, I did it.
Yes.
I finished it. And you and I have a mutual friend, Stacy, that really encouraged me. And she said, you need to turn this into a book. And
Yes.
that's exactly what I did.
That's incredible. But 50 is a lot in 1 year. There are 52 weeks in a year. And
Right.
realistically, it's not completely feasible to do something new every single week for a whole year when you still have to go to your job and feed your child and give them attention and clean the house and go grocery shopping. So that's incredible that you were able to pack it all in a whole year.
Yeah.
So, so what is this book?
Well, it's called Oh Honey, I'm Just Getting Started. And it's really geared toward people that want to consciously create their next decade or a different way of life. Each of my chapters is one of my stories. And then at the end, I'll have, now it's your turn. What's a fear that you've wanted to overcome? One of my stories was there was a trail here in Utah that I could never go out. I had a severe fear of heights. This one drops, and I pushed my way through it. That was actually my first one. But getting back to that, getting 50 things done in a year, there were days where I would do 3 things in one day. And it was eat at a new restaurant, sit by myself and have lunch. A lot of people just won't do that.
Mhm.
So I would combine quite a few things. But how the name of that book came up was my oldest brother, who's 15 years older than me, is notorious for calling me the day before my birthday. He always gets it wrong. And he'll always say, "Oh, I just wanted to be the first one to wish you a happy birthday." But this particular year, he called me and he said, "How old are you going to be?" I said, "It's the big one." And being from New Jersey, we've got snark in us. He goes, "Congratulations, you're half dead." So, and my response to him was, "Oh, honey, I'm just getting started." And that became my book title.
That's fabulous. And it's a fabulous title too, because especially as women, women in their teens and 20s think, oh my God, when I'm 30, my life is over. Then you hit 30, then you're like, oh, when I'm 40, my life is over. Then, with each decade, you think it's the end, it's the end, it's the end, because our society is ageist, especially towards women. Men have the luxury of like aging gracefully in a different way, perception wise. Of course, women age gracefully. There are so many women who don't come into their own until later in life, because I feel like there's so much pressure on us and we're so insecure the first half of our life. We're just kind of getting over that. It takes us half of our life just to get over everything that society has kind of drilled into our psyche about what we're not living up to. And then it takes us a certain amount of time to just kind of shed that and be like, oh my God, I'm finally free. Like I can finally live my life.
Exactly. Exactly. One of my big inspirations, and I do mention her in the book, was my mom's brother's wife. My Aunt Dale, who we refer to as Mama D, she has since passed away. She was so pivotal in my life where she said, "You know what? You're just getting started in your 50s." She said, "And wait till you're 60, you're not going to care what comes out of your mouth."
Mm-hmm.
She was always a good inspiration for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it's true. Like especially being in the performing arts, I work with people of all different ages. And I have collected a few friends who are feisty older women, and they are a hoot, because it's true. Like women in their 70s, even their 80s, who are still performing, who are still acting, they're still in the game. And first of all, they've got the most incredible stories because they've been around the block a few times. And second of all, they just don't give a crap. They just don't care. Like they're not trying to prove anything anymore, and they're not looking for anybody's validation. And it's just a phenomenal kind of energy.
Hmm. The word validation right there. I love that. Yeah, you really start looking past that because we spend so much time when we are younger looking for other people's approval and validation. And it's very freeing and very liberating to
Yeah.
get to that point in your life. Having grown up as the youngest of five, I had a lot of parents that really commented on everything that I have done and I'm doing, and I see where that really held me back. So I call myself the white sheep in my family. I'm doing things completely differently.
That's phenomenal. And speaking of doing things differently, so you, prior to this 50 at 50 list, you worked in medical devices. And tell me again, what do you do now?
Okay, right? Completely different. My dad he was a pharmaceutical sales rep. My mom was a nurse. My sister's a nurse. It was almost like I had to go into the family business. So worked in medical devices for 20 years, and I'm very grateful for that career. I was able to travel all over the place. I lived in Europe for a couple of years,
Ooh.
but I had go to Belgium, just saying. I had a flight. I found myself living here in Utah on commuter jets in the winter. And I had a particular flight going up to Butte, Montana, that I did not think we were going to survive. I landed and I was like, I'm done. there's got to be a different way of doing things. So this was actually several years before I started writing my book, but I quit my job at that point. I had just adopted my son and really started my journey of, I know there's something else out there for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got trained in Reiki. I got trained in the current energy mastery that I'm doing now. I worked with coaches, and now I'm really starting to bring everything together. Everything that I learned on my journey, I am bringing together so that I can hopefully, and I do work with clients, get them to where that is quicker, kind of save them all those years of self-discovery, because at the end of the day, we all know we're here for something bigger. Some people step into it beautifully. I had a client who's 17 yesterday that knows exactly what she wants to do in life. How many people know that at 17, right?
Incredible.
So I've been so grateful for what's come into my life, the coaches I've worked with, and the opportunities. So really starting to bring that all together into a business model where I'm working with a lot of people that are doing the same thing as my book. They know there's something different. What do they want to do?
Yeah, they're looking to pivot, but they're just not sure which direction to go in.
Exactly.
It's so incredible how your coaching and your book go seamlessly together, because even though you started coaching prior to the book, it's just like you walk the walk. You know, there are a lot of, I think coaching has become very trendy in the past decade, and there are a lot of coaches out there who haven't necessarily achieved what they were looking for in their life, but they're trying to teach it to other people. And I think it's so amazing that you walk the walk, you got to the other side, you got to the top of the mountain that you were afraid to climb.
Right, exactly.
Literally. Now the important stuff. Where do we find your book? And where do we get your info? How do we follow you? What if we want to work with you? What do we do?
You're going to have to come down to the racetrack in Vegas,
Oh,
because I'm going
perfect.
to make you come down there now. It's really so much fun. It really is. But my website is trishwalker.us. You can get my book on Amazon, but I do have a link on my website for the book. And then I'm very active on Instagram, trish.walker1, or my Twitter is at 50 for a year.
Fabulous. We'll have all the links below to help everybody find them a little easier. I love your story. I love your energy. I love your courage and your passion to live life to its fullest. It's so inspiring, Trish. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much, because I needed to hear my story again. I so appreciate it. I'm in the middle of working on my second book that you and I discussed, and this one is really getting raw and deep.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal is, if I can have one person read it and inspire them to do something. So thank you for the inspiration. I so appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. And it's amazing how sometimes we need friends or colleagues to reflect the mirror back at us, because when we're left to our own devices, it's very easy to be a little self-dismissive of our accomplishments. And I go through that same thing. A friend of mine had me on her podcast last week. And when she gave the intro, I was just like, oh my God, is that me? Are you talking about me?
I love it.
It's amazing how our friends and our colleagues can see our truth so much clearer than sometimes we can, because we're stuck in the middle of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, I so appreciate the chance to talk to you. And
Yes, of
I
course.
talk to you on social media, and I'm quite impressed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone in the interweb for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed Trish's story. And if you get a chance, check out her book, check out her website, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And I challenge you to do something you never thought you would. Let us know in the comments what it is and where it led you. I would love to hear about it. I really want to start a conversation about this. And I want to encourage and inspire more people to climbing that mountain, jumping off the cliff, whatever it is that you never thought you would do. Because once you get on the other side, it can be magic.